Hello again to all of our subscribers and viewers. It's great to have you here with us as we explore the history of America's most well-known economy car, built by General Motors Chevrolet division for a decade, from 1960 through 1969, in 2 generations. To this day, it remains the only American-designed, mass-produced passenger car with a rear-mounted, air-cooled engine. During its production run, the Corvair was manufactured and marketed as a 2- or 4-door sedan, a 2-door club coupe or hardtop, a convertible, a 4-door station wagon, a passenger and commercial van, and a pickup truck during its first half of production from 1960 to 64. These vehicles were all part of the first generation. Body style offerings were reduced to a 2-door hardtop coupe, a convertible, and a 4-door hardtop in its second generation from 1965 through the model's end in 1969. The name Corvair originated by combining the names of 2 of the most popular Chevys during the 1950s, the Corvette and the Bel Air. This moniker was first used in 1954 for a Corvette-based concept car with a hardtop, fastback-style roof, and was a part of GM's Motorama traveling exhibition. By the late 1950s, the physical size of even the entry-level models offered by American auto manufacturers had grown considerably. The market for the smaller vehicles that had been available in the past had all but been abandoned. However, there was one noticeably smaller car that had been doing quite well with new car buyers throughout the 1950s. The Nash Rambler had sold well since its introduction, and when the recession in 1958 hit the American economy, this car was well positioned for buyers who wanted a more economical car to keep on the road. Overseas, smaller cars were the norm for years, so supplying these cars to a huge market like the U.S. was a natural progression. Many of these cars were advertised as a second vehicle for what was becoming a common occurrence, the 2-car family. While the Big Three continued to introduce even larger cars during the 1950s, the new American Motors Corporation began focusing its business strategy on smaller-sized and more fuel-efficient models, years before a demand for them really existed. AMC was a small auto manufacturer, especially compared to the Big Three, so this quickly evolving market niche was going to be responsible for pushing the company into 3rd place for domestic auto production. American Motors would resurrect its predecessor company's smallest Nash model as the new 1958 Rambler American for a second model run, and an almost unheard of phenomenon in automobile history. In 1959, Studebaker confidently followed AMC's formula by restyling its mainstream economy model sedan and calling this new model a Lark. The Lark's unprecedented success helped give Studebaker a reprieve for several years before their inevitable final shutdown in 1966. During 1959 and 1960, the Big Three automakers were planning to introduce their own entries into this new compact car field. Both Chrysler and Ford designs were scaled-down versions of the conventional American car, powered by smaller displacement 4- or 6-cylinder engines. Over at GM, Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac would all follow this formula, but at Chevrolet, well, they had an entirely revolutionary new idea. Taking the lead was GM General Manager Ed Cole. He had Chevrolet designing a completely new car that greatly deviated from traditional American design. The car was powered by an air-cooled, horizontally opposed 6-cylinder engine constructed with many major components made from lighter-weight aluminum. The engine was also mounted in the rear of the car, driving the rear wheels through a compact transaxle. In addition, the suspension at all 4 wheels was independent, offering a much better ride and handling. This design would also not have a full-frame chassis and would be the first unibody design built by Fisher Body. The tires were a new, wider, low-profile design mounted on wider wheels. All of these new design elements were under the skin, but what matters most to most new car buyers is the styling of the exterior and the passenger compartment. The Corvair's styling was certainly unconventional for Detroit at the time. Elegant, yet contemporary, with no tail fins, excessive chrome, or even a chrome grille. Bill Mitchell and his talented design team received an Industrial Designers Institute in New York award for their final styling of the 1960 Corvair. The new car's engineering earned GM numerous patents, and high accolades were bestowed on Mr. Cole by Time magazine, featuring the Corvair on the cover, while Motor Trend magazine named the Corvair its 1960 Car of the Year. The Corvair, in all of its various body styles, proved to be a big success, with more than 200,000 cars sold in each of its first 6 model years, which is quite remarkable considering how quickly Americans embraced this new car design. Chevrolet claimed that the design offered several advantages over a conventional auto, providing the car with a lower silhouette and a flat interior floor, no need for power-assisted steering or brakes, and significant improvements in ride quality, traction, and braking balance. Although the concept of a rear-mounted engine had been done in the past, the Corvair and the air-cooled Volkswagens of the time were the most prolific and thus iconic of all. The first models came in 2 series, 500 and 700 four-door sedans. These were the only models available in introduction, powered by the standard aluminum flat 6 that produced 80 horsepower and was either equipped with a 2-speed power glide transaxle or a floor-mounted shifted 3-speed manual. 500 and 700 Club Coupes became available in January of 1960, all powered by the same 140 cubic inch power plant that were found in the earlier 4-door cars. The bucket seat equipped Monza Club Coupe was introduced in the spring of 1960, along with the 95 horse Super Turbo Air high-performance engine option, now with an automatic choke for the carburetor, an optional new 4-speed transaxle. The full-size spare tire was mounted in the luggage compartment, and a few options like a gas heater and an AM radio. Incidentally, the Monza was the first car to use the narrower 1-inch wide white-wall tire design. Initial sales were impeded by a strike within the U.S. steel industry, but the strike affected the entire industry, plus many others. Without the strike, it's impossible to say how many more Corvairs would have been sold during its introductory year. For 1961, new models were debuted to keep the momentum going that had been created for this American-built 6-cylinder air-cooled car. The engine was enlarged a bit to now provide 98 horses, and in addition to all of the 2-door Club Coupes and 4-door sedans, Chevrolet also added a 4-door station wagon called Lakewood, available in either 500 or 700 series. The van-like Greenbrier, the similar Corvan, which was also a van but without side windows, and both load-side and ramp-side pickups. The load-side had a conventional tailgate at the rear, and the ramp-side had a retracting passenger-side ramp for conveniently loading and unloading cumbersome cargo from the side. Unless equipped with factory-installed air conditioning, the spare tire was now stowed in the engine compartment. This was also the first full year of Monza production due to its mid-year 1960 sales success. The immediate success of the Monza model alerted Chevrolet management to begin a new design program that resulted in a conventional layout compact that was to be called the Chevy 2. Ford Mustang enthusiasts have the Monza to thank for opening up the possibilities of a smaller, sportier car because it pushed Ford to develop the Falcon Sprint and eventually the Mustang, to exploit the small, sporty car market uncovered by the Monza. 1962 saw the introduction of a Monza convertible and an exciting new turbocharged Monza Spider that was added in mid-62. Monza 4-door sedans and wagons became available, while the 500 series wagons were dropped from the lineup, and the Lakewood series of wagons lost that name designation. Station wagons would be discontinued altogether in mid-1962 to provide sales opportunities for other Corvair and Chevy 2 models. After all, why mess with success? Slight mechanical improvements were continuing to be developed, like self-adjusting brakes and small engine improvements like belt guides and an improved oil cooler. The load-side pickup was also discontinued. For the 1964 model year, engineers refined a larger 164 cubic inch engine. The rear suspension was improved by adding transverse leaf springs and revised coil springs. A front stabilizer bar was added as standard, better cooling finned rear brake drums, and new optional cosmetic items for the immensely popular Monzas, like full wheel covers with specific centers and new chrome rocker and wheel opening moldings. This year would also mark the demise of the ramp side pickup. These first 5 model years were now in desperate need of a completely new redesign. When the Corvair debuted for 1960, there was little competition within its market segment, but as the years ensued, the cars and model offerings evolved, and now this car had a lot more models vying for the consumer's new dollars, and additionally, the muscle car era was now in full swing. The 1965 models would end the year with only 3 models left: the sporty 2-door hardtop, the beautifully styled convertible, and the attractive 4-door hardtop. Production was still strong because of continued demand, even with only 3 body styles available, but with a host of option packages and models. In the history of the Corvair, 1965 is significant because during this year, well-known consumer advocate Ralph Nader wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed, specifically targeting the Corvair and what his perceived design flaws were about it, with the potential for rollover crashes being the most noteworthy. Almost immediately, the Corvair's reputation and legacy, as well as those of General Motors, were tarnished by accusations about its handling flaws. Eventually, Nader's unfounded accusations were proven false by a 1972 National Highway Traffic Safety Administration report. Support for the tests conducted at College Station, Texas, was provided by the Texas Transportation Institute at Texas A&M University's Research Foundation. Nonetheless, the damage was done. Because of customer perceived safety issues, Chevrolet equipped all of the 1966 Corvair models with windshield washers, larger tail lamp lenses, backup lamps, padded visors and instrument panel, a day-night mirror, and 4 lap belts were also provided, all standard equipment. Manual transmissions were improved, and late cars added a U-joint to the steering shaft in conjunction with floor reinforcement to reduce the risk of a column collapse in collisions. Tire size was upgraded along with a thinner white wall. New spoke wheel covers debuted with specific model centers, and the front-mounted Chevy emblem was now blue. New optional equipment included headrests, shoulder harnesses, a 4-speaker Delco FM stereo multiplex stereo system, and a power rear antenna. New smaller air conditioning condensers were mounted behind the engine, and Monzas and Corsas featured black crinkle finish on their instrument panels. Well-known racer and performance Chevrolet new car dealer Don Yenko, who had been racing Corvettes, found he was unable to successfully compete against the Carroll Shelby-built GT350 Mustangs after they arrived on the scene. At the time, the decision was made to race modified Corvairs, beginning with the 1966 model. As the stock Corvair did not fit into any of the SCCA categories, Yenko had to modify 4 carburetor Corsas into sports cars by removing the back seat. In the process, he introduced various performance improvements. Because the SCCA sanctioning body required at least 100 cars be manufactured to legalize any model for production racing, Yenko completed 100 Stingers during 1 month in 1965. All were white, as the SCCA required for American cars at the time. There was a great deal of variety between the individual cars since all were hand-built. Some had exterior modifications including fiberglass engine covers with spoilers. Some received engine upgrades, developing 160, 190, 220, or even 240 horsepower. However, all were equipped by Chevrolet with heavy-duty suspensions, manual 4-speed transmissions, quicker ratio steering, pause attraction limited slip differentials, and dual reservoir brake master cylinders. Because most of the cooling in air-cooled engines is done by the circulating motor oil, an oil cooler was critical for competition use. These Yenko modified Corvairs mounted the oil cooler on the rear external body section above the left wheel. From 1967 through the end of production in May of 1969, safety improvements continued and the discontinuation of various models and options. For brevity's sake, I won't be going into all of these right now, because our focus here is really on the earlier cars. The last few months of production cars were hand-built on a special offline area of the Willow Run plant. Well, that wraps up our look at this fascinating chapter in automotive history. Corvairs still have a following of enthusiasts that acquire, restore, maintain, and exhibit these air-cooled wonders, well over half a century from their decade of production. So tell us in the comments if you have any fond memories of a Corvair, or what it is you love about them, and hit that thumbs up button. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again real soon.